Guys, welcome back to season 3 of How They Healed. If you're wondering what season 1 and 2 is, it's on this YouTube channel. Just scroll to the playlist of How They Healed. You can watch season 1 and 2. How They Healed was created because I healed from having a child at 19, 14 heartbreaks, 15 abortions, and a divorce. Today, I'm a cognitive behavioral therapist and a family life coach. I help people heal from trauma, emotional pain, dysfunction for a greater life of abundance and me. So subscribe to this channel so that you can be the first to watch when a new episode drops. Stay tuned for the rest of the episode.
In fact, I now tried the weed too. The day I discovered that he smoked weed was also the day that I smoked weed for the first time. But when I grow up, I'm going to marry my daddy. Then when I got pregnant, I think that was the point when I felt like, you have finally lost yourself. I have to get rid of it, So I just felt like that's the end, that if I keep it, then that's the end of my life. But I know that I had these internal battles within myself about whether I was good enough, whether I was pretty enough, whether I spoke well enough, whether I was smart enough. Everything that I knew to be morally true, everything that I held dear as my philosophy of life, as my values, my spirituality, everything went off. Because it's much easier to be pulled down, than to pull someone up.
Hi guys, welcome to How They Healed. On How They Healed, we bring you guests that have been through pain, trauma, issues of life, and they come to share with you how they moved from trauma, their pain, and now they're doing well. They come to share their healing stories, their story of resilience, and how they've overcome the issue of life. Why we do that is so that we can also take you from a place of pain to a place of power. As usual, I'm your host, Lara Kudaisi Don Momo. And today, I have somebody in the building. I am so excited to have her. By the way, I have been trying to get her for so many weeks. I need to tell you people, I need to report her to you for so many weeks. But I am so grateful that eventually she decided, because she's a very busy woman. She's making millions of dollars. But out of her busy schedule, she came today to honor this interview. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me a soul prosperity coach. Somebody that I feel like we have kindred spirits together. Her name is Tosin Yemi Sonny. So welcome to How They Healed.
Thank you so much, Coach Lara. Thank you for having me.
Yes,
and hello everybody.
And I always say, anytime I see you, I don't know if I've said it today, like you are such a pretty girl.
Thank you.
I need to. Mr. Sonny is enjoying. He's enjoying. Like, and I also like because the reason why I must mention this is that when I was getting into this industry, I had people tell me there should be a look. It should be this serious agony aunt with glasses. And I'm like, me, I like to dress, me, I like colors, me, I like to look fashionable. I'm telling you, it was a sort of identity crisis for me, because I am very deep. And I also love fashion. I also love glamour. So for a while I struggled with that, until I realized that this is who I am, and I'm going to build, So when I see you, I'm excited, So, and, I know today is going to be very impactful. I've heard, part of your story. But, anytime I hear it, it's like it's new and fresh again. So let's start from the beginning. I have 1 million questions in my head. So number one question is, what kind of a child were you?
I love it. A couple of months ago, I'd had this interview that went viral, and someone who used to live in my house when I was growing up, she reached out to me because she had seen the interview, and she was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry that all of this happened. And she was like, it makes sense now why you were the way you were as a child. And then she was saying that when you were a child, you were so withdrawn, and it seemed as though you were sad a lot of times, and we didn't understand you. We just thought it was your nature, it was your personality, but you used to cry a lot. You were just, that kind
Wow.
of child. And I was like, oh, thank you. And that just really got me thinking, about how my very early childhood experiences went on to impact even the way I showed up as a child every day. Um, but beyond all the painful experiences that I had, I think that generally, even just by nature, as a child, I was a quiet child, you know from an early age, I was already quite introspective, quite reflective. I wasn't one of those children that was quick to, associate with people. I have siblings that are very outgoing, very extroverted,
Boisterous.
very boisterous, and all that. I was not that child. I was the different child. I was happy to be at home. I was happy to be reading a book, be reading a novel. I loved my room. In fact, I remember that there was a day my mom was looking for me around the house, and she said, "Did she go out? Did she go out?" And she then found out that I was at home in the room, and I had been there alone for hours. And one day she said to me that she was going to tell my friends not to visit me again.
Because
Because me, I don't go out. I
go
don't
out,
visit other
so
people.
they all come.
They would come to my house and all of that. But I was not that. My parents didn't have the problem of, oh, Tosin is always wanting to go out. No, because I was always happy to be in, not just in my house, but in my room. Exactly. So my mom was like, I will tell your friends not to come and look for you again. If you will not go and look for people, let them not come to your house again. That's kind of like opposite of what you would have with most kids. Most kids
Children,
want
yes,
to,
go
they want to
out,
go out, they
they
want
want
to
to
go
go
to
to parties.
parties, they want
Yeah.
to go to, not me. So I've always been very introverted, very loved my space, loved my privacy. But
What
I
position were
also
you?
second of
Oh,
three, middle
okay.
child. Yeah.
Oh, did that have any effect to do
I
with your? Did that have anything to do with your nature?
I think so. I think so. First of all, I was a feeler. I'm still a feeler. I was that child that the smallest of things will get to. My younger sister is very different from me. She's very, outgoing, she doesn't, any small thing, she can give it to you, and all that. I was quite the opposite, and in fact, there are things my younger sister would do that I would already just have tears in my eyes.
Whoa.
And then people would be like, how can your younger
Younger
sister be
sister
making you
be
cry? Can't you stand for yourself? But I didn't like trouble. I didn't like, do you get? So I was just that, don't give me stress in this life. Little stress would just make me cry. Don't move my things. If I arrange my things this way and I come back from school and you've changed it, it will upset me.
Whoa.
Just leave me. Let my life just be okay. Let me just be, I don't like stress. Don't stress me,
Oh my
So
goodness.
yeah, I was that child. But I think being the middle child definitely had its impact. And being the first girl as well
Okay.
of two
You have
girls.
an
I have an
elder brother.
elder
Oh, have an
brother,
elder brother.
exactly, and then I have a younger sister. So I feel like there was a lot of course, your parents want to get it right with you, especially as a girl, So there was a lot of discipline and being very firm and being very, like you will not miss it in this life. My parents were very, very, very firm with me. And all that. So being the middle child, I feel like every middle child needs special attention and special care, because there's always a tendency to, when people have their first kids, they're doting on the child because this is your first time as a mom, as a dad, and all of that. By the time you have the second child, you're kind of like, I will know this thing.
Yeah.
You might not do as much. Do
Wow.
you get? And then when you have your last born and you feel like, this is the baby of the house, especially when the other two have grown, and then you now have this one baby, you start to pay that baby attention again. So that middle child sometimes kind of gets, just
Less
lost,
attention.
exactly,
Wow. So
in
did you
between.
think that happened to you?
So I have to give it to my parents. I think they did exceedingly well in ensuring that I, experienced maximum love and care and all of that. But because I'm such a sensitive person,
Yeah.
and I was such a sensitive child, the smallest things that could probably be easily dismissed by another person or another child got noticed by me. So for instance, I can be like, my brother had a bicycle. Why didn't I get this bicycle? Why, little things
Things
like
like
that.
that
Yeah.
that
And
they probably didn't even notice or think
exactly
about.
those kinds of things. But if you think about it holistically, you then see that even the tiniest things have a way of impacting us,
Yes.
impacting our sense of worth,
Yes.
impacting our
Especially
self-perception,
children.
especially children,
Yes.
and all of that. But hey, our parents did the best they could. My parents did fantastic. I beg, I have to give it to them in this life. They did such a great job. But I think that as I grew older, I then started to realize that, hey, if there was anything, if my parents had any shortcomings or whatever, it is now my responsibility to reparent myself, to heal from
Yes.
any experiences that I might
Exactly.
have felt, because I'm a mother. I'm not a perfect mom.
Yeah.
I'm
I
just going
was
to do the
I was
best.
going to ask you that
Do you get?
now that you have
Yeah.
children, how do you?
Exactly. I just do my best. I just do it because I think because of the work I do too, I'm very
Yes.
mindful of, hey, let me not traumatize this child.
Yes, so one
Let
damage
the
him.
child not come out exactly talk in one podcast. That's
And
when
that
I
my
was my
my mommy damaged
my
me.
money. Hey God, I beg. But I also realize that I'm still human.
Yes,
I would do the
absolutely.
best I can, but when my child grows, my child too have a responsibility to say, hey, okay, these are things that I need to do better, and based on information that I now have as an
Yeah.
adult, because I still don't know everything. I
Absolutely.
still don't know everything, so
Absolutely.
I'm gracing myself a lot on this journey.
So there's something,
That.
this talk about reparenting yourself. Parents of these days now have, because a lot of us were traumatized by our parents. So they now have this fear of, I don't want to, and they go to the extreme. You know, now you don't um, empower the child. You rob them of letting them do things themselves. You give them everything. And then eventually the child will still come and say, my parents gave me everything. I don't know how to do. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that
Yeah.
fact that you said you're just human. You can only do the best you can, and then leave the rest to God.
Exactly.
Then you're a pastor. You're a pastor's child.
I am.
Hmm.
I'm a
They call
PK.
them PK. I was
Yes.
gonna say that.
That's
How
us.
did that also affect you growing up?
I think that there was definitely a lot of or there were definitely so many expectations that people had of us growing up, church people and all that. I'm thankful. I really have to give it to my dad, especially, of course, being the head of our home and all that, for just trying to shield us from unnecessary negative influence, people's wagging tongues, and all of that. But hey, there's only so much you can do, because we practically lived our lives in church, going to church, multiple in a week. So people had expectations, about how we should be. The average pastor's child probably feels like, I cannot make a mistake in this life, because not only would I be judged, it will also look bad on my parents. So you're not just thinking for yourself, you're thinking for your parents as well, because you don't want them to get into any trouble, and all of that. But generally, being a pastor's child for me wasn't a bad experience. And the thing that I'm most grateful for is the fact that I have parents, and I had parents who genuinely walked their talk. Whatever they were on pulpit is what they were at home.
Wow, that's such a
Yes.
great gift. I'm
Yes.
telling you.
Yes. So I didn't have that whole, I want to be rebellious because my parents are living a lie. I can't relate to it. I know that it is the story of a lot
A
of
lot
pastors,
of,
and that is
yes,
why
pastors'
a lot of
kids
pastors' kids
rebel.
eventually rebel and all of. But I can't relate to that, because my parents were genuinely God lovers, and whatever they said they were in public, that's exactly what they were for real.
That's so good though.
Yeah, yeah. So that was a
And
blessing.
I envy. I want to be like you when I grow up because that's just like you said. A lot
Yeah.
of pastors' kids don't can't relate to what you're saying
Yes,
because their
yes.
parents are perfect on the
Yes,
pulpit, but
yeah.
at home they're
It's just that
monsters
I'm
and
telling you,
some
it's
things like
sad.
that.
It's sad.
So how did all of this affect your relationship with the opposite sex?
For the earlier days of my life, I think that I mean, abuse came in eventually. I had experiences with
When you were
abuse.
younger?
Yeah, when I was younger.
At
Yes,
what age?
at 3.
3?
Yes, at 3.
How did that happen?
Yes, at 3.
And how do you even remember that?
I know people ask me this question
Yeah.
all the time. Like, how do you remember something that happened at 3? Because when you're 3, you don't even have the cognitive, do you get
even
skills
know
yet
that.
to remember. Exactly. But first of all, I'm a person of faith. And I believe that when God's hand is upon a person, the enemy a lot of times will try to sow a seed of corruption from an early age, because we already know that from between the ages of 0 to 5, that's when your brain develops the quickest. So whatever happens within that age range, it locks into your brain so powerfully. And so it makes sense that if the enemy of my soul is after my destiny, he would orchestrate the fiercest attacks on my life within the ages of 0 and 5, and make sure that it stays in my brain, because it would go on to just distort my sense of self, and my self-image. So that happened when I was 3. But interestingly, that molestation experience was not even with a man; it was with a woman. Yeah, who lived in our.
So
It was
rare.
exactly. I mean, now people are talking about things like homosexuality and all of. Back then, in the early 90s, ththose things were almost non-existent. I'm sure that they existed, but nobody was talking about it.
People didn't
Exactly.
talk about
So
it.
people didn't know. People didn't even know. Like, the average parents would be very comfortable to leave their child with
Please.
someone of the same sex that at least is not
Yes, it's
opposite
not
sex.
opposite sex.
Do you get? So you would never imagine. So my parents would never imagine that. Maybe they had never even heard of that kind of thing before. Would you
Yes.
get? So yeah.
The things that happen these days. My mom and I were actually talking about this thing recently. That hey, because I was talking to her, telling her how she used to drop us, three children, with an adult woman, 5 a.m. because she was going to travel to
Wow.
go and buy things in another state. Then she'll come and pick us late at night or maybe early in the next day.
Wow.
She was like, thank God, because now
yes, no.
you can't try that. What? I would literally have a heart attack thinking
know.
about it. So but nobody would have thought at that time that an older woman, was the person, was she a teenager, was she a family member?
So she was not a family member. At least she was not related to us by blood. My parents were consistently helping people.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
That's what
pastors. That's what pastors do. A lot of
Yes.
pastors have people live in their house that are not related to them. But hey, maybe there's someone in church whom you discover, this person needs help, they've got some family crisis, and then pastor steps in and you know what, you can come stay with us. So one of those people, she just was living with us, and we had just grown to know her as like auntie. Everybody was auntie, everybody was uncle, as long as we lived in our house. So even though we're not related by blood, we had just come to see her as a family member, so to speak. So at that time, I would like to think that maybe she would have been in her early 20s. At that time, she must have been in her early 20s or nearing 20 or something like that. Yeah, that's what I'd like to think of her age.
Do you think that had anything to do with your sensitivity, self-esteem as a child?
You mean that experience?
Yes, that experience. You were saying that as a child you were so sensitive, you cried a lot. Do you think, especially now that you're a soul prosperity coach and this is what you help people heal from too, do you think that contributed in some sort of way?
Yes, I'd like to think so. I think there's an inbuilt thing in me where I'm naturally a sensitive person. But I don't think that experience would go on to try to corrupt that sensitivity, in that it then became not just my natural gift of sensitivity, because I think that sensitivity is a gift.
Yes.
Not just that natural good gift of sensitivity, but that inner feeling of brokenness. Like, something is wrong with me. I'm fundamentally flawed, but I can't really tell anybody about it. And I think that is what makes the pain so strong. It's the fact that I feel something is wrong with me and I can't share it with anybody. So I think that that definitely did its thing.
So how many times did it happen? Do you remember?
It's very interesting that with her it was just that one time.
Really?
Just that one time, and it never happened again.
And you said with her, meaning that there were others.
in terms of female experiences, that was the only one. But as I grew up, there were other men who lived in our house who would try to touch me, so that I had all those other kinds of experiences with men. But
Tosin, we should sue all these people.
we
Are
should
you
sue
being
them.
serious?
We should sue them. I don't even know
my
where they are today.
goodness. Abi,
I don't even know where they are today, but yeah.
So
Yeah.
that with those other men too, fondling, groping,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that a lot of children, like millennials, had that kind of experiences.
Yes.
And they just and just wish it away as normal. So did that add to that feeling of brokenness that you were talking about?
Definitely. And because I also grew up in such a spiritual environment, and there were certain expectations, there were certain things that were clear that this is sin. This, so I already started internalize the fact that I was a bad person. Because of all these things that had happened, even though now I know that it was abuse, because you cannot consent to, exactly. Do you get? But I already had that feeling of, I'm a sinner. I'm such a bad person. I'm so filthy, So I had all these mindsets about myself because of all of these experiences. Yeah.
And of course, so that would make you feel low yourself,
Low self-esteem.
So how did that affect relationships with the opposite sex?
I think when I was growing up, I had a healthy, despite everything that I had experienced growing up, I had a healthy relationship with the opposite sex. Very healthy relationship with the opposite sex. It was much later that everything scattered. But for the most part of my early life, I had a very healthy relationship with the opposite sex. And I think that part of the reasons is because my dad affirmed me a lot. If he didn't I think his affirmations went a long way in countering some of the negative effects of the experiences I had growing up.
Yes.
I think so, because my story would have been a lot worse than this. Yes. But he did a fantastic job of affirming me. My dad would say things like, if I were a young man looking for a wife, it's you are the one I will marry. In fact, from an early age, I used to say that when I grow up, I'm going to marry my daddy.
Wow.
Yes, I will kick my mommy out, because why is she even here? Like, I will marry my daddy. Is my husband
So you
to
were
be.
like one of those children that would say,
yes,
my rival, my husband's side chick.
Yes, I used to say it,
Such
and I
a daddy's
really,
girl.
yes, I'm such a daddy's girl, so that, all those affirmations and those talks that he would have with me, he really set the bar high. So even in my early years, I didn't think that I wasn't tripped by guys like that. There was nothing a guy could give me. I remember when I was a teenager, guys would come with gifts. There was one particular guy, even when I was in secondary school, I don't know whether I was stealing his parents' money, that he will be bringing me all sorts of gifts. My family members, including my elder brother, we nicknamed him Donatus.
Wow.
That is
why?
because he used to donate. That is not donating. He's not donating and donating and just that, Yet there was nothing that ever happened with me and him. I did not now say because he has been giving me things, so I should now be following him to, his house and all of that. I wasn't tripped by all those things. They didn't mean anything to me. So I think I had a healthy relationship with the opposite sex growing up. Yes.
So at what point did it scatter? Because you said it scattered.
Now, yes.
What happened?
So it was when I thought there was a guy that I thought I was going to get married to, and somehow the relationship did not work out because both of us are AS genotype.
Were you, how old were you at this point?
At this time, I think I was about 20 years old. 20, like 20.
You started this thing early,
Yes, I was ready to marry at 20. I was ready to marry. Yes, in my mind, I thought I was going to marry very early.
Wow.
So I was just so distraught when I found out. And I know my parents, there's no way. You cannot, there's no way.
They're not those pastors that will say, let's use faith. Let's faith it.
No, my father said there's faith and there's foolishness. This one is foolishness. You cannot. There was no, I just knew that it was a lost cause. And I was so pained. I was so bitter. And I think that it just takes something, one thing to go wrong in your life for all your unresolved trauma to get triggered. It was that experience
Absolutely.
that triggered everything I hadn't dealt with in my childhood. Yes. I'd had other, experiences where maybe when I was in school, I know that I was struggling with my identity, even though it wasn't shown on the outside, I was not visibly, someone who you would say had low self-esteem. But I know that I had these internal battles within myself about whether I was good enough, whether I was pretty enough, whether I spoke well enough, whether I was smart enough. I had all those internal battles, but they were not manifesting outwardly.
Yeah.
It was only going on inside me. Yes. So when this relationship didn't work out, and I felt like the one thing that I thought, this is mine, this was going so well. When that chapter of my life ended, it really did feel like a part of me ended with that relationship. So it then triggered a lot of my insecurities. I remember one thing someone also said to me during that period, and she wasn't trying to be mean. She was just genuinely concerned for me because she knew the guy I was dating at that time. She was like, where are you ever going to find a guy like this again?
Oh, that must have done a number.
He did. That thing entered. It entered.
Yes.
I was like, you see, even somebody on the outside has affirmed this thing, can see that I've lost something big, like, she was like, this guy was such a good guy. Where are you ever going to find somebody like this again?
And also knowing that you're such a sensitive child.
Do you get?
all of
Exactly.
That,
So that thing
compounded.
I was just like, that's it.
It's finished.
It's finished, And then I was very mad at God. I was like, how can you bring somebody this good into my life? And then this kind of thing now happen. Why were you dangling something good in my face? You should not have let us, you should not have allowed us to be in a relationship in the first place, because why?
Did you find out that it was AS?
It was, honestly, we had this conversation before, and he actually thought he was AA. We thought he was AA. So it's not as if I didn't ask initially, because I'm so sure someone will be listening and saying, you know that you're AS. You did not ask before entering the relationship. You are now crying. Why are you crying? I asked. And he thought he was AA. Maybe, sometimes maybe you do a test and it actually comes out. Maybe they switched his genotype result earlier in his life. I don't know. But he actually did think that he was AA, And so I accepted that, that, okay, you're AA, I'm AS, we're good. And it was now at the point when we had started talking about, marriage and all of that. I was like, this marriage matter we're talking about, before my father will consent to anything, he will want to see proof. So we were just doing that test for the sake of, let's just have proof, not because we wanted to find out his genotype. It was just, let's just have proof that we can show daddy at home, not that we wanted to find out. We already in our minds knew that he was AA. So when the results came now, and Oga said, is AS they wrote it? So, no, it is, yes, it must be that they wrote it because Coco makes sense. It doesn't make sense.
I can totally relate. It's AS they wrote.
That's what they wrote. So, because how now? No, now you're AA. We'll go and do the test at somewhere else.
Wow. And
multiple.
This is a story of a lot of Nigerians. Do you know?
Now.
Why does that happen?
I don't know.
Because I've heard this a lot. Some people even go ahead to marry, and then when they have children or a kid, and then the child starts falling ill, and then they say it's AS, and they're like, no, I'd always known. See,
yeah,
I don't know. You people should just do your test like 55 times. That's my solution for you people, because I'm telling you, it can be quite devastating.
Yes,
it changes people's lives forever.
Yes. Wow. Yeah, so that was how I found out. That was how we found out, and then that just triggered a lot of insecurities, everything. Because, well, I would have married this guy and I'd have thought that my life was fine, and everything in my life was perfect. And, but him exiting my life just exposed me. I felt exposed. I think it's one of the things like, oh, okay, now you get to be single, be with yourself, what's going on, and then I realized that, oh, I had a lot of insecurities. Well, I didn't know at the time that I had insecurities. It's in hindsight now that I can say, oh, those
Yeah.
were
Yes,
very deep
insecurities.
insecurities. But I really did feel exposed, and I wanted to be in a relationship so
So
bad.
bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was also one of the ways that I was coping. I just needed to be in a relationship. I think that was the first sign that something is wrong. Exactly.
is definitely
Because
wrong.
I just felt like I was not okay. How can I be single? And it's not as if I was old though. I was like 21.
Wow.
And so that was it. And because I was desperate to be in a relationship, because my heart was hurting, and I somehow felt like being in a relationship was what could fix my hurt. Being because that guy showed me a lot of love and all of that, and I was used to being treated like a princess, and I just needed that.
Yeah.
You get, coupled with all my insecurities and all of that, I was just like, I just need to be in a relationship. And I think that just exposed me and made me vulnerable to meeting predators. Yes,
See
that's
the
what
word you
exposed.
called
That's
it.
it's predators.
Predators.
Yes, yes. That's what made me very vulnerable. Because when you are ready to settle for anything now, when you are desperate
Yes, you just get
for
anybody.
love, anybody, they just need to speak the right language.
So, who did you date after him? How did that go?
Let me see.
Hey, I like this. It's not only me that will be talking about 14 and
Oh
people
my
have plenty.
God. Mine is not up to
number.
14, sha.
But it's plenty.
Let me see. Who did I date after that? Who did I date after that? I think I was in a very short-term relationship after that didn't last. Yeah, I think this was someone who had been my friend, and then I think we're just good as friends. Getting into a relationship with him was a very bad idea because we just didn't work. It didn't last long. It didn't last long. And I remember just also being deeply hurt by that short relationship, because not only did I lose a relationship, I also lost a friendship.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So that was double
hurt.
heartbreak. I was like, we should have just stayed friends, because that guy really hurt my feelings, with some of the things that he did and all that. It just really hurt me. And then that just another layer.
I was going to say that it adds to it.
Yes, everything just keeps
There's
adding up.
already
Just
a basis,
do
a
you
foundation
get
of
exactly?
pain or hurt. So it just keeps I always tell
everything.
people, no relationship leaves you the same.
Yes.
No relationship,
Yes.
leaves you the same. Every time there's always, if somebody breaks your heart, something is there. Another one, something is there. Another one, something is there. That's why I was not normal after 14 breaks. Just let me just throw this jokingly. Sometimes when my husband says stuff, and I'm like, I'm not okay. The man will say, go away. You will be giving me excuses. You're okay.
You're okay.
You're okay. Go away. Because I always say that how do you get to be okay after a lots of relationship breakups? That's why I tell younger people now, if you can, stay away.
Yes.
Stay away. Stop experimenting.
Yes.
Because the more you're just accumulating pain, accumulating hurt, you think you're okay. You will not know.
Yeah.
Until it just manifests in other ways.
Exactly.
So which major one now really scattered everything?
That's a very good question.
Yeah.
So I had met a guy, I think this was during my NYC years, and he didn't live too far from where I lived at the time, and I think I was on my way to my PPA that day when he just drove past me, and then he parked, and I think I had seen him in the area a couple of times, so I wouldn't say he was a complete stranger. So he just rolled down the glass, I greeted him, and he was like, let me give you a lift. And I said, no problem. And then I think he dropped me off at work, and that was how we started talking, and then we connected. And then I thought he was somebody that I could date or somebody that I could be in a relationship with, but it became clear to me that he was not a serious person. First of all, he wasn't a serious person generally. Number two, he was not ready to get married anytime soon, and all of that. And I wasn't looking for somebody that would waste my time, and all of that. So I eventually then, interestingly, met his cousin, and then his cousin was the person that I then started, dating. I met his cousin through him, interestingly, and then That was the relationship that almost claimed my whole life. But I
We
thank
thank
God.
the Lord. Because if you have claimed your life, you shall not be here today.
My goodness, that was the relationship. And it's very interesting because, this guy was smooth. He was, those kind of people that, what is tall, dark, handsome, like, you'd be like, is this person of this? It was just a really,
was
really
cute.
good looking
Really?
person. Really good looking person.
So was that one of the things that attracted you?
Definitely. And
Hey.
because I, on the other hand, had struggles with my self-image, with my sense of worth, having someone who was that good looking be interested in me,
you
I'm like,
made you
do you get? It was,
feel.
yes, it was touching something inside me, it was fixing something inside me. It was speaking to a wound that I had.
Yeah.
So I was just like, for someone like this to really be interested in me, then let me just give myself to him. Do you get? Let me just align. Let me just stay with this person. And that was it. And that's what wounds in our souls do. They will just urge you on, into dangerous situations that would literally almost claim your life. You start to see the red flags, but you will just feel powerless to walk away from something that you even know is not good for you. Because when I started to see some toxic traits, it was not even red flag. It was red banner. Do you understand? Flex banner. Do you get that? It was there. It was clear. It was evident.
What were those red banners?
Number one, he did not love God. He didn't have a relationship with God. And that was important to me because of how I was raised, my personal values. He didn't even go to church. Not to talk of, loving God, that one's even deep. He didn't even go to church, even to go and mark attendance.
So how were you interested in him?
Exactly. So that's the question because I had already started falling.
Yes.
Before
Yeah, I get that.
before I started asking the right questions, you get. So I was already neck deep. My emotions were already involved, and so I could not even see what I should have been seeing, or I saw, but I just turned a blind eye. I was like,
So what were you
I will
telling
change him.
yourself?
That me, I have influence, I have power to transform a person. Is it not me? I will transform his life.
That's what I'll call you.
Give me
Posting the transformer.
Give me a few months, his life will change.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, I genuinely believed that he would become a different person. I believe that this is something we can work on. I believe that I could win him over. But I was deceiving myself because he was the one who was pulling me, because it's much easier to be pulled down, than to pull someone up.
Wow.
Yeah.
I need to stop. I need to say. You need to say that again.
It's much easier to be pulled down than to pull someone up. Yes, it takes more effort to pull someone up. Than to pull someone down. Exactly.
And I also want to cut in here because this is what a lot of alpha women do. I'm going to change it. I remember my first marriage too was something like that. Oh, I'll change him. I'll fix him. As if you just feel that power. They me. They own me. I have power too. Meanwhile, you have no power to do nothing of such to nobody. Nothing of such. So wow, did he pull you down?
Yes, so I was pulled down. I was dragged down.
How?
Yeah. First of all, everything that I knew to be morally true, everything that I held dear as my philosophy of life, as my values, my spirituality, everything went off the roof, went out of the window rather. I lost my sense of self. I lost my connection to God, because first of all, I started feeling like a fraud, like a hypocrite, because I'd go to church, but I'll be back, with this guy. I was sleeping with him, things that I used to judge other people for, because I used to be very judgmental, very critical, very self-righteous, like I was one of those people in school, like if I just see one girl doing anyhow, just be like, you don't have focus for your life. You are going to hell. I used to be very, yes, I was very, very, so the kinds of things that I would condemn other people for, I now found myself doing these things. So I felt like a hypocrite. I felt I just felt torn, I remember that I then realized that he used to smoke. And me, the way I was raised, the way I'm coming from, I don't fraternize with people that smoke. Do you understand? I don't even talk to them. Yes, because if somebody smokes, then that means that person is a bad person. Do you get? That's the, you know, so to then be in a relationship with somebody that I now discover that, this guy smokes. So, hey,
What does he smoke?
first of all, it was cigarettes that I first saw. That's the one I first, and I was really shocked. And I confronted him. I remember even confronting him that, guy, I did not know that you smoke, and you never told me this at the beginning of our relationship. I mean, at the start of a relationship, it's not one of the questions I will ask, do you smoke? Because I genuinely just did not imagine.
Imagine that anybody that you would be drawn to would be...
Exactly. And I had an image in my head of smokers. That they would be rough, they would be, do you get? So, and he didn't have any of those. It was very clean, very, so I didn't think, I mean, I'm an upcountry girl. I was not born and raised in Lagos. So, I was not laju, as they would say. You know, maybe a Lagos girl would be able to easily tell, but I could not. Do you get? I was very, very naive. Even he used to say that about me, that, this baby, you're so naive. Like, you don't know anything. Yes. His friends too used to say it about me. This your babe. She's just there so innocent. She don't sabi anything. Exactly. So I did not know. I did not know to ask. I was just shocked. You smoke? And he was like, it's just socially, just once in a while. That I'm not like addicted and all of that. And I say, hey God. It was already from that moment that I was like, hey, you see your life to see. That you should all be here. Do you see? But I didn't have the power to leave. I didn't have the power to leave.
It was giving you self-worth.
Exactly. Even though he was damaging his self-worth.
Yes, I know that.
But exactly. You know
that
that
you feel
like
this completes me. This makes me feel like worthy.
Exactly. Exactly. I also liked what it looked like to the outside. Cute couple goals,
Cute
all those
children
things.
alert.
Cute children alert.
Couple
Cute children
goals.
alert. Exactly.
Hey.
It looked good on the outside.
So what else did you discover that he smoked?
So I then discovered that he was also smoking weed.
Okay.
That discovery that day, I was like, wow. But interestingly, I don't think I was then as shocked. I don't know if I was as shocked as when I found out about the cigarettes. Because after the cigarette discovery, I then just saw him for who he was. I saw the lifestyle that he lived. I saw that this one is a party guy. He's a whole, that whole. So I don't know that I was as shocked, because I think that cigarette one really shook me. But by the time he then started smoking, he now showed me weed. I was already deeply a part of his life by then, So I was just like, okay, this one is new. In fact, I now tried the weed too. The day I discovered that he smoked weed was also the day that I smoked weed for the first time.
So who initiated that?
He was the one that initiated it, and I was like, he called the botanical name for me. He said, this is cannabis sativa.
Whoa.
And when it's somebody's laughing in this.
Not my producer, so is the name. Even me, I've never I have heard cannabis, though the sativa.
Yeah, it's not complete. Cannabis is not complete. Cannabis sativa.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So he said this is cannabis sativa, and that it's it's safe. It's not dangerous. Like that cigarette is dangerous. And that he would never allow me smoke cigarettes. So he had become the custodian of my life.
Yeah.
Because it was like, I would not allow you smoke cigarettes because it's not good for you. But weed is actually, there's nothing to it. It's not harmful.
Wow.
Yeah, it's actually a drug. Chemists so say it's not harmful, that people even use it as medicine, but in other doses. It's legal in some countries. It's not, there's nothing, but that it just then gives you this high, this feeling of being high, and that is a very pleasurable feeling that he sold this thing to me. And I said, so I got curious, of course, and then I remember taking that first drug and I was just coughing. I was just coughing profusely, and it was like, yeah, that's usually about how it is. It will get better with time, And truly, before the end of that day, I was already taking drugs and puffs and nothing. I was not coughing anymore. And then I became someone who would ask for it. It was no longer a case of I'm trying to get Tosin to smoke, or I'm trying to bring Tosin to this. I then would request. I already knew how the business, ran, and all of that. I would never go and buy it on my own and all of that. But I was You know, I became that girl that was eager to smoke weed, and
So,
then
but
it
what
just
did
became a
it
part of
do
my.
to you? What
I,
feeling was it giving to you?
it's that high feeling, no,
Okay.
very, very. So weed makes you lose your every inhibition that you have, you know, and it's something people need to be aware, really be aware of, especially the younger generation, you know. Weed does a lot of things. It just, I think, I don't really know the science of it,
Because I
you
was
know,
going
but
to
it
ask
feels
you,
like it maybe it shuts down a part of your brain and turns on
I was
something
going
else.
to ask you, as somebody who has smoked weed.
Have you smoked weed before?
No. You know, and now you're making me curious.
Don't go as
I'm just joking.
yeah, woman of God.
I'm just joking. So, but I really sincerely want to ask, because a lot of people say this thing, oh, weed is better than, you know, just like this guy told you.
Yes,
I've heard
yes.
people tell me in my therapy sessions, I've had people try to sell it to other people. What do you think from what you know about it?
Weed, as far as I'm concerned, is drug abuse, number
Okay.
one.
How?
Because that's not the purpose for which it is administered, even in medical settings. I know that they administer it in small doses
Yeah.
to help people manage pain and all of that. But this one, people do it in the name of pleasure. You know, a lot of people also smoke maybe to drown out their problems, their
So it's
worries,
sort
you
of an
know,
escape.
an escape. Exactly. But me, I did not have, which problem was I running away from? I had a job, I had a family that loved me, you know, and all of that. So this was just, it really was just bad behavior, you know. And weed exposes you. It exposes you because you lose your inhibitions, you lose your capacity to think rationally. So if you're with someone who is an abuser, they would take advantage of you. Or that's all they need to do. They will just give you weed, you know, and they will. And I personally did experience that when I was, you know, in that relationship where there was some information he wanted to get out of me, and he made sure that I smoked and I was really high. And then he asked me and he got the information because I was not able to think, you know. And then when I was sober, I was like, hey, who sent me? Do you understand? Yeah. Yeah. So that's what a lot of people do. So you're
And
dating
then spiritually,
and then
what do you know?
Spiritually, I think that it definitely opened me up to, first of all, already, I was already opened up, you know, to a realm that I was not supposed to be opened up to, you know, already from just the immorality that was prevalent in our relationship and all of that. So smoking, we just added another layer. It just took me even further and further from my faith, further and further from God, because the more I smoked, the more I felt like I was a different person. I was a bad person. This is, I mean, even people that we say they are bad, a lot of them are not smoking weed. They have not even reached that level. Do you understand? And I would already judge and condemn them. Then me, I felt like I was the worst already, you know. I think it was when I realized that he was emotionally abusive,
Okay.
you know.
What was he doing?
So he would say stuff like, so for instance, I remember that I used to be I'm still a slim person. I want to say I used to be very slim. I'm still slim. You know, but maybe even a bit slimmer then, you know. And then we'll be driving on the road and he would say stuff like, maybe he would see like a voluptuous person, you know, somebody that was maybe like a bigger size, and then he would say, that's my kind of person, you know, like I need you to gain some weight and all that. And then I started to really, really question myself. I mean, naturally, I tried to maintain my weight intentionally, you know. I loved being slim, you know, and all of that. But he would say stuff like that, you know, and a lot of people know body shaming only within the context of someone who is big, you know, but sometimes people who are slim too, you know.
No, we do. Because when we were growing up,
They say
how do you
exactly,
something like, you understand? It's
stuff
to
like
abuse those,
exactly, exactly, you know, and things like that. And then he was very confident in the fact that I could never leave him, you know. He felt like he already had me wrapped around his fingers, like this one, you know. But I think a lot of all those experiences with emotional abuse. There were just things he would say to me that would really break me. Funny enough, I can't remember those words anymore.
When healing happens.
Exactly. I can't remember those words, but I
I
do remember that he would say a lot of things that would break me emotionally, and I would journal about it, and I would be like, why is this guy even in a relationship with me if he thinks I'm all of these things? Like, he should just leave me now. He should just go. But I still would not have the strength to say, you know what, this is too much. I need you to, to just go. And then when I got pregnant, I think that was the point when I felt like, you have finally lost yourself. You're finally,
you were Christian,
exactly.
you were pastor's child.
Exactly.
You knew that sex before marriage was bad,
exactly.
let alone pregnancy.
Exactly. And so I was like, where do I go from here? I can't have this conversation with my parents. What if my mother has a heart attack and dies because of me? Nobody will forgive me. I just had all these thoughts running through my head, and I was like, there's no way that I can keep this pregnancy. I looked left, right, center, looked at the matter upside down. There's no way that I can keep this pregnancy. I was so scared, and again, because of the culture sometimes that is in the church, where people who have failed and people who have fallen, there's no plan for recovery and redemption and reintegration, and so people feel like there's no other way. That's the end, so I have to get rid of it. So I just felt like that's the end, that I don't if I keep it, then that's the end of my life. That would be the end of my life. That would be the end of everything that I know as life, and I was very scared of that. And I was like, I'm definitely taking out this pregnancy.
Was it deliberate?
Was
the pregnancy?
Okay, so he had, one day we were having a conversation, and then he said something like, I need us to do something that will bind us together some more. And I was like, what is the thing that can bind us together? Because I was already thinking, there's already all these things that what do we want to do again that can bind us together? And then he said, in fact, first of all, I'm sure I must have, does this guy want us to do blood covenant? What's all this? You guys, like,
it's true. That's what I would have thought.
That one I'm sure I would not have done. I don't think I was that crazy because I'd watched too much Nollywood. They said that somebody can run mad. I know. I don't think that I was that crazy to have done that. But he then said something like getting pregnant and terminating the pregnancy, and I was like, are you okay?
That would bind you. That was
because it felt like like if I did that, I can never leave him again. That kind of thing. And I look, it's not lucky. I know that there was just a lot of demonic stuff attached to that. Because it's not normal. Who says that? Do you get?
So if people smoke weed,
do you understand? You just be thinking your brain does not work normal. Exactly.
It doesn't. Your brain does. That's just.
You just give demons liberty to dwell,
and then normally you just don't think.
You just don't,
because,
exactly.
Like we said, it doesn't make you think rationally.
Exactly.
Then you say odd, crazy things.
Exactly.
I should start watching out for people in my office. That
you just ask. It just as have you been smoking?
Wow.
So when he said that, I was like, exactly. But interestingly, I did not intentionally, because when he said that, I pushed back. And I was like, I can't do that. That is silly. Like, I was like, no now. No, I can't do that. That's not okay. That's not good. We shouldn't even be having this kind of conversation. But all he needed to do was speak that word. It was just a seed that he planted. And it was only a matter of time. So even when it happened, it's not like it was intentional, but somehow I did get pregnant, and I knew that I couldn't keep it, and even when I told him, he was like, what do you want to do? He knew as well that Tosin doesn't have the liver to keep this pregnancy, so. Yes. And then when that happened, I felt like, not only did I feel like I lost something physically in terms of, my pregnancy, but that was the moment when it dawned on me that I had lost myself. So I wasn't, so in my grieving, because I grieved a lot. I cried a lot for days. I cried a lot because, again, I couldn't share with anybody. I couldn't tell anybody.
Ask you that.
Nobody
Why?
knew. Nobody knew. Nobody knew.
You didn't
Not
have
even my
close
close.
friends,
I had
like, because
friends.
girls have closest friends
I
that they
had.
share the craziest
I know
thing.
I didn't have friends I could share things that were that crazy
Is it
with.
because they were all Christians?
All my friends are
Children of
Christians, children
God?
of. Do you get like?
Oh,
And then I had a reputation of holiness.
really?
Yes, with them. I was that
Okay.
good girl. Do you understand?
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
people already had a perception of me that this
you.
girl's such a good girl. She's very pure. She's very. I won an award of take home to mama when I was in school. So I was that girl that people thought, oh, modada, like good girl.
Must have been a lot of
So it wasn't.
self-conflict.
Do you get? So how do I then go back and I was sure that none of my friends could relate to my experiences. That they would just be like, which one is this one? We can't help you. I don't think anybody would have been able to help me, to be honest. I don't
Never
think
can tell. Now that we know, now that we are
everybody
older,
was just still figuring their life out.
out.
They were all good girls, they're living their own life. So I think it would have been a lot for them to handle, to be honest, So
how were you able to come out of this? Because this was so
yeah, it was really
down the
deep.
drain.
It was exactly. But that was the moment I feel when my life began to turn around, because it was then very evident to me that I had lost myself. I had lost my way completely. I was very aware of the fact that, you have lost yourself. And I started to mourn for my lost self. I started to mourn, the Tosin that I once dreamt of, the visions and the dreams I had about myself. I always knew that I was called to, to touch people's lives, to change people's lives, to speak and I started to mourn that girl. I was like, there is no way that you're on the path to fulfilling all those God-given dreams, so I was like, this is so far from who I intended to be. And then after that experience, I feel like the emotional abuse got worse. So I was genuinely tired. I was sad every day. Shortly after we got engaged, and when I got
engaged after
to
determination.
Yes, after.
Wow.
After. I think it was after. And I remember taking the ring and I was sad. The tears I was crying were tears of sadness, not tears of joy. I was sad and I was like, I'm trapped. I felt trapped. I really felt trapped. I thought about my future too. I thought about the kind of children I wanted to raise. I thought about my own background and the enabling environment that my parents created for me. And I thought about, if I had kids with this guy, what kind of environment will I create for my children? And I was like, no.
This is somebody's liberation.
Yes.
Like the person you're with.
Yeah.
If you raise children, if you marry that guy or that girl, what kind of children would you raise?
Yes.
Is it children that, would pray for you?
Exactly.
Be grateful for both of you? Or curse you in future for giving them such a dad or mom as this? Wow.
Yeah.
That was really deep.
Yeah. So I started to ask myself those questions. And that's the beauty of being raised in a good family.
Yes, of course.
Because even if your children stray, God forbid, somehow.
Yes.
You know how the Bible says, train up a child in the way that it should go. When he is old, he will not depart from. He did not say he will not detour, he will not make mistakes.
Yeah.
So, but last,
it will not depart. It will always come back.
It will come back.
Because there was a plant.
Yes.
Something was rooted in that child.
Exactly. The right seeds have been sown.
Yes.
The right seeds have been sown, and that was what really helped me, So I was like, I can't. But I didn't know how to come out. But I knew that I couldn't stay here.
So who broke it?
I knew.
Him?
It was me. But it took a lot. It took, first of all, I remember just crying out to God one morning. I was in the shower and I was just crying out to God and I was like, God, I know I need to leave, but I don't know how. You have to help me. I said, God, are you going to watch me marry this guy? Are you going to watch me ruin my own life? There are some people that are in dangerous, crazy situations and they're not even aware. Yes. They don't have self. Me, I knew. Aware. I was like, I know that I'm walking into danger. I know that I'm ruining Are you going to watch me do this? I don't have strength of my own. I don't have power of my own. Are you going to watch me ruin my life? And I feel like that day, heaven really heard my cry. Heaven heard my cry. And I know for sure, with the other people in my life that were praying for me, because I feel like my mom had a sense that something was wrong in my life, and she tried a couple of times to have these conversations with me that this guy you're dating, my spirit is not in agreement with him and all that, but I'll shut her down and I'll be like, nah, it's not what you think, it's nothing. But I know that she was praying, because I've seen that happen in fact, the whole family, once my mother says something and you're not accepting, she'll just take it to God in prayer. She'll just go and be interceding. Last year, the one by yourself that will go and break that thing. So I know she was definitely doing a lot of prayers, you know. And then at that time, because I had prayed, I feel like God heard my prayer. And then he brought another guy into my life. Because God knew that this girl, the only thing that can help her in this life is man. That's the only language she understands. If somebody comes to preach to her that you need to change your, she will not hear. But if she falls in love with a good person, she will have strength. Because I always had to be on the rebound. Always needed to have a relationship, a new prospective relationship before I could let go of an old one.
This was because of your insecurity.
Exactly.
You didn't think being alone
exactly
was anything good.
Exactly.
Somebody had to be there
Exactly.
for you to feel worthy or complete.
Being in a relationship, it made me feel good. It fed my sense of worth in a very negative, unhealthy way. So when I met this other guy who happened to be a Christian, a God lover, was a very good guy. He was very kind to me. We used to have really, really great conversations. In fact, at some point, because of him, I started praying again. He was really helping me in my walk with God and my relationship with God. So I just felt like, so there's still good guys like this in this life. And for me, that was a sign from God that, hey, there's so much more to your life. There's so much better out there for you. It didn't mean that God was telling me that this is the person I will marry. But God was just showing me possibilities. That where you are, that's not the best. That's not my plan for you. There is so much more on the other side of your fears. That's what God was trying to show me. But me, I took it as this is the man that God has for me. I was just so happy that I found a new correct guy. So being in that friendship, we were not dating officially, but having that close relationship with him, it just did something to me. It made me feel alive again. It made me feel like, oh, my life can be better. I can be in a relationship with someone that is loving, that loves God and that loves me, that is smart, that I can be in a sane relationship. That she gets that and godly. I can have a really good relationship. And then I just saw this my own relationship for what it was. I just started to despise it. I was like, Tosin, you're better than this. You are so much better than this and you can do better than this. I started to gain confidence again. I started to see a bit of worth in myself again. That, you can do better than this. This relationship is bad for you. Because I had then started drawing closer to God. And the more you draw near to God, the more you find inner confidence, the more it feeds your sense of self in a healthy way. I started to see myself a little differently again. I started to see that, you're worth more than this. You can do better than this, and you don't have to trade your identity for a relationship. So I then said, you know what, I'm not doing it again. So that new relationship, that new friendship really gave me a lot of liver, and I think I'd even confided in this new guy. I didn't tell him all the details, but I confided in him that, look, I'm in a relationship that is breaking me, and all of that. And it was really there for me. And it was like, so what do you want to do? And I was like, I'm ending the relationship, and all that. And also because I knew that it was a prospect, I did not want him to run away and go and follow another person. So I was like, let me quickly break this relationship so that I can, so that exactly before he will go and have another girlfriend now. Let me quickly end this relationship.
Okay.
So that was where my headspace was,
Yes.
So I said, I have to end this relationship. So it was a combination of different things. It was a combination of the fact that, hey, I started to see possibilities in God again. And two, I did not want this new person to slip away. I was like, let me go and end this relationship. So I then decided I was going to break off the relationship. That day I removed the engagement ring from my hand. I just put it in my bag. I was determined that after work I'll just go to his house and go and tell him. No, I wasn't going to break up. I was going to do something that will make him break up with me. That was my plan.
You never thought a lot of women are like this, so because you gave a lot of power to the man.
Yes.
So he had to make the decision.
Yes. I wanted him to be the one to say, I'm not doing it again. I wanted it to be like, you were Kuku, the one that said it. Exactly. So I remember going to his house after work that day, and they just, I think what I went to say was that, hey, I am finding myself again. I'm finding God again. And because of that, there are certain things that must change in this relationship. Number one, no more sex in this relationship. So the guy was like, are you normal? Are you okay? What's
So
wrong
what
with
would we
you?
be doing?
Exactly like it was even the audacity that I was using to, that was the thing that was annoying him
because
the
you
most.
couldn't.
You get, I was
You
like,
never could have done that
so he
before
was
then.
like, are you okay? What's wrong with you? What are you saying? Because I came with a lot of boldness. Came with a lot of, I was giving rules. If this relationship is going to continue, this can't happen again, that can't happen again, this can't happen again. So it was like, I'm not serious. And he got very angry, and that was the first time, no, not the first time, but that was the angriest I had ever seen him, because he then got up and punched like the fan beside me. In fact, I saw the fan break. I was like, eh? So if I'd married this guy, it would have been my head that would be breaking like this.
Your face like this. Wow.
So I was so scared in that moment. And then anyway, he was like, give me my ring. I'm not doing it again. Give me back my ring. I was like, fine. So I just
was what you wanted.
Exactly. I just put my hand in my bag. You were not even wearing it, first of all. You was in your bag. Just give me my ring. So I gave him the ring. And then at that point, it became clear to him that something has changed in this girl.
For you to even put it in the bag. And
Exactly.
then give the ring. No begging.
No begging. No, I'm sorry. I will stay.
No trying to change it. Like, oh, it's not that deep now. That's not what I mean. So I think that sends the signal.
He sent the signal. I was like, something has happened to this girl. You see all that anger and gaga before that he was doing, everything just went down. I just saw him switch completely from very angry to shocked. Because he was like, what? You gave me back the ring? Tosin. He called my name, Tosin. You gave me back the ring. I said, yes, you asked for it. He just sat down. He was just weak. Because he never expected that I would have the guts, that he was sure that I could never leave him. And then he started to bring up all these things, which he thought would have kept me. I was your first. I was your something. You had an abortion for me. He said all those things. You're leaving. I said, yeah, I'm actually done. I'm done, So, and I was like, it was really late at night. So I said, can you take me home? Because I will not even find taxi at this time.
You still asked to be taken home.
Yeah.
You got the audacity that you came with.
Yeah. Can you take me
to go and be studied?
Yes.
Studied.
Can you take me home? Because it was really late at night. This conversation went on for hours.
Wow.
So I was like, can you take me home? And it's like, yeah, I'll drop you. So he just dropped me off at home. And I think he thought, because he tried to then, his tone changed, was talking to me very gently and calmly, that it's not that deep now, and all that. But I still did not answer. I didn't take the ring back. So I think that he thought I took the ring back. Because by the time he got home, he now found out that I had left the ring on the sofa. So he now messaged me in his house. So he now said, you left the ring. I thought you took it back. I said, no, I didn't take it back. And then he came back the next day. He had cried. His eyes were red. He was looking so disheveled. I'd never seen him like that before. I was like, so you like me like this?
And what did that do? Didn't that make you have a rethink?
It did, because I collected the ring back that day. Yeah, I collected the ring back. I could not just watch him. I was like, he's so remorseful. And he said that he would do everything I'd said. Maybe I went there with rules now, that if you keep to these rules, we will continue the relationship. So he then came back and said he has said everything I said, that he will keep to the rules, that we will do a Christian relationship. We will not. He downloaded plenty gospel music. Why are you laughing now? It was like, I'm now a born again Christian. See, we are now doing godly things. Besides sharing scriptures, I'm serious. He changed overnight. He became a changed person. But the way I lost my peace after I took back that ring, God was like, you don't want to hear. You don't want to hear. I'm trying to help your life. You want to walk back into bondage. You don't want to hear. And then it showed me that change that is not internally motivated is not sustainable. That if this guy's change is not coming from a place of his own personal condition, it will not last. Wait until you are married. You will see Shege. All the tears that you made him cry, he will make you cry times 2. That's what I was hearing. That he has cried for you now. You will cry for him. You will cry back. All the tears, he will make you pay for it. I say, no, I can't do this. So It was then a case of how do I then, because now he was doing good, he was changing. How do I
How
then
long
go
after?
back? This was just a couple of weeks. It wasn't
Weeks,
very
okay.
long. Yeah, this was a couple of weeks. So how do I then go back and say I'm not doing it? Because he had then changed, became very respectful, became very kind. He was saying all the Christianese. He was going to church.
Ah.
I'm telling you, he was
Wow.
he was going to church. He was doing a lot of good things, like all the changes I thought I wanted to see.
Physically.
He was doing them. So why? What is now my basis for ending the relationship? So it became a little dicey. But I continued praying, and then I just said, okay, another thing that will help me is accountability. Let me go and share this thing with someone. Shame will rob you of your destiny.
Keeps you.
Shame will keep you in bondage, and it will rob you of the life that God designed you to live. So I said, there is no shame here. Let me go and find someone that I can tell all my mess, that I can open up to and say, this is what I've done. This is how I'm feeling stuck. I know I need to live here. I don't know how. So I had a conversation with someone that I really, really trusted, and a much older gentleman. He wasn't even in the country, he was out of the country. So, but I had a phone conversation with him. I confided in him. I told him everything that I had done. And I told him that I know I need to leave, but I just need you to hold me accountable, and I need you to pray for me. And that's what he did. And then I re-strategized my breakup plan, that this time around, you can't go and be doing gra-gra. You can't go and be, I'm not here for a fight. I just need to leave this situation because I need to find myself again. It's not about him. It's not about trying to make the relationship work, and all. I just needed to find healing. I needed to find wholeness. I needed to find me, and I couldn't do it within the context of this relationship. So I then asked for another meeting with him. We were going to, this time, it wasn't even going to be in his house. We just went to a restaurant after work. I went to him, and then I had that conversation and said, look, it was a very civil conversation. I'm trying to find myself again. I feel like I have lost me. I need to reconnect with who I am. I can't do it in this relationship, So I had that conversation. I was even wearing the ring this time around, so that it would not be as if I came to fight. I don't have no, and then I removed it from my finger and I put it in his hand and said, I can't do this anymore. And at that point, even he didn't have the strength to fight again, So he just then went outside and cried, came back and said, it's okay. And that was the end of my relationship with him.
Yeah.
That was how God brought me out.
How long was that relationship?
It was for 2 years. It wasn't very long.
But it's like 20 years inside 2 years.
Exactly.
So did you go on to date that other gentleman?
Yeah, we had a situationship. It was not a straightforward relationship because I didn't get the kind of support that I needed. Again, I didn't have my parents' full support, and their approval was important. I mean, people are different and they have their own, but my own parents' approval was important to me because not only were they my parents, they were also my spiritual authority. Yeah. And I knew they wanted the best for me. My parents are not, they're not difficult to please. It's not as if they are naturally difficult people. So if they genuinely say there's something here we're not agreeing with, then it's from a place of love. They're not trying to control my life, so there's no reason why I shouldn't listen to them.
What were their objections?
Interestingly, it was not anything that we could hold tangibly. It was just exactly that intuition, especially, and when you're a person of the spirit, sometimes you don't have the big picture. You just have a discomfort in your spirit. It might be something that would show up 10 years later. Yes. But exactly. So it's not as if the guy was a bad person. Nothing on that. But it was just, there's something here and we don't think that this is. And again, it might not have even been about him. It might have been about me. That you are not ready.
Yeah.
If you marry this guy, you will ruin both your life and his life. And that guy is a child of God. He's God's child too. And he deserves to be protected and preserved. So it might not have been about him.
And then because you're also going to be a person of purpose.
Exactly.
The person you are going to be with is very important.
Exactly. Couldn't just be any person. Not every good person.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because if he's so good, but he will not allow me live out my God ordained purpose. He can't allow me come on a podcast like this and change people's lives and share my story vulnerably.
Yes.
You know.
easily can be good with
So
that.
all those things. So that relationship didn't eventually progress into what I thought it would be, and then obviously God needed to separate me for a season so that I could
To ask about that. Were
heal.
you ever alone?
I
at
was
all?
now alone.
Okay.
After that relationship, I still went into another relationship, and then I never had peace. Even if I was in another, it was just my love life was chaotic. It was full of drama. So at some point, you get tired of the drama.
Of course.
You get tired of the chaos. And so when I had reached my limits, was when God had my full attention. And he was like, how long, ma, are you going to go around in circles? How long are we going to encircle this mountain? How long are we going to keep going around this mountain? How long until you realize that relationships cannot satisfy you? That men cannot satisfy you?
Feel you.
How long is it going to take for you to realize that your sense of worth cannot be anchored on a relationship? How long will it take you? How many more relationships do you need?
Hey, like some of us that did 14 and then put divorce on top. Before you can
So I
now
say,
see
God,
that relationships can feel
they can't. So I say, okay, I'm not doing again. Because clearly, it can't feel me. Because with every broken relationship came another layer of pain. So I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm done. And I remember just crying out to God and saying, God, you know what? I'm done. I'm done. Just heal me and make me whole and show me the thing. So he then started to show me the connection between my past and my present. That time I didn't know what therapy was. There were no therapists. Nobody was talking about all these things. So my own work, my own inner healing work, was the bulk of it was done on my own. I'm so glad for what God is doing in this generation, where we now have people like you. We have people like me. We have many people who are now doing this healing work. But back then I didn't know anything about it, or maybe it was there and I just didn't have access to the information. So a lot of it I had to do on my own. I had to learn, I had to read books, I had to listen to sermons, to messages, I was just doing a lot of personal work. And then I was seeing the connection between my past and my present. I was seeing how experiences with abuse and with labels and with some of the criticism that maybe I had experienced in the past, and how they were playing out, and how they impacted my self-image and my sense of worth, and how that then led me to start looking for love in the wrong places. It started to make sense. I was like,
you knew all these things yourself.
Yeah.
So
I learned. I'm telling you. Yeah. I started to learn those things on my own. I didn't know it to the degree that I now know it, but at least at a basic level, I could understand, why I was the way I was. And then I just gave my life over to God, and I was like, God, you know what? Just do this work of healing. I said, I know that if I go and choose another man for myself like that, I will enter another situation. So I was like, God, I just give you liberty to choose for me. I know you give us free will to make these decisions, but me, I'm handing over that free will back to you, because I know that I make the worst decisions when it comes to relationships. So please just do this for me. Please just do this for me. Just take over. And then I became, in that season, really satisfied with being single. I loved it. I started to enjoy it. It was no longer something I was enduring. It was something I was enjoying. I was happy to be single. I was happy to be discovering myself, to be finding myself. I was happy to be all by myself. Suddenly, being single no longer felt like this bad thing. It was so beautiful. I remember even booking a trip to go to Ghana all by myself. Solo trip, something I could never have dreamed of before. I was like, but I didn't go because I felt ill and all of that. But I was ready to just enjoy my life as a single person. And I told God that I would wait however long I needed to wait. If it was going to take me another 13 years, 20 years, if I was never going to get married, I was going to be okay.
So
I was going to be
did
okay.
That season last? That you're single?
It didn't last long. It didn't last long. It lasted only months.
Months? It didn't even reach 1 year.
It didn't reach 1 year, but I was ready to wait years.
Yes.
And it didn't matter because I was truly cleaned up on the inside.
On the inside, I think that's the most.
That's it.
Yes. I was also going to ask you, in that season, did you know that you'll be doing this today?
I had an idea. Yes. I had an idea. I remember having an encounter with God one day on my way to work. where I sat in a taxi at the back, Uber, and I was crying. I just, from nowhere, I just had a wave crash over me, and I just began to cry and to cry, and I didn't understand why I was crying. And I was praying, I was speaking in tongues, I was doing all these things. The taxi guy did not even ask me, "Madam, are you okay? Why are you crying?" I don't know if
the guy would have just thought this one have problem.
Exactly.
Let me just leave this one alone.
He didn't ask me, "Are you okay?" Anyway, I was praying in tongues, I was crying, and then I would always take my journal anywhere I was going with me, And then as I prayed in tongues, I started to get the interpretation of what I was saying. And I feel like that was the day that God showed me for sure that I was going to heal people with my story, because I was writing it down that day. Because He said to me that don't commonize your healing. I saved you intentionally. Not a lot of people are able to come out of deep, dark pits like this, but I intentionally pulled you out so that you can be light for others. I saved you so that you can give me your entire essence, so that you can give me your entire life, your entire story. So that was the day I knew that I was going to, share my story with the world. I didn't know on what scale, I didn't know to what extent, but I knew that I would change, even if it was just one life with my story. That day I knew.
Profound.
Yeah.
So when you said that thing didn't last, this season didn't last, so was it your husband you met after?
Yeah, I met my husband a couple of months after. So it's very interesting, because my husband and I would have been married a long time ago. When I was in that relationship with that guy that almost took, let me not say that guy that almost took my life, because listen, let's be owning our own mistakes here, and let's take responsibility for our actions, because nobody put a gun to my head. Of course, there was a lot of brokenness involved that made me vulnerable, but hey, I made my mistakes, and I take responsibility for my own actions. So when I was in that relationship, apparently my husband had seen me, someone had tried to introduce, a colleague had tried to sort of do an introduction, introduce my husband to me, introduce me to my husband, and then my husband had gone on Facebook, checked me out and all of that, and he saw, because that time Facebook, you put everything there now. In a relationship,
so in a relationship, single, so when the man saw in a relationship, that's what he said.
Okay, this one they have taken her.
Wow.
So you see that being in the wrong place. If God does not have mercy on you, you can miss your destiny.
I'm telling you.
Because why did he not marry after that? I could have married. God just held him for me, because there was no reason. He had seen that I was in a relationship now. So he was just like, she's taken already and all that. So fast forward to after this whole season, had gone, another person, a different person, then said, "I want you to meet somebody." And it was still my same husband that this other person wanted me to meet. See, I'm telling you, so she was like, a guy, he was like, "I really want you. He's a good guy. He's a very correct person, very gentle. You will like him." You like. In the past, that kind of thing would have triggered me, because I was questioning whether I was fine enough. So if somebody now said, "Let me hook you up now," it triggered an insecurity in me. So are you saying that I'm not good in, I can't, a guy can find me by himself? Yes. Why do I need to be hooked up? I used to think that anybody that they are matchmaking is because the person is not fine, or the person is not good enough. So the person needs help. And it's not true.
Because sometimes it
broken mindset.
Yes, the person could see, your good nature,
these people will click. Yes. But I had exactly faulty mindset, broken beliefs, limiting beliefs stemming from lies, So I just felt like, anybody that they are matchmaking, this person is not fine, person is not, so the person just needs help. They're just trying to help the person, and I didn't want to be helped. So I was always used to frown. Somebody had tried matchmaking me before, and I was like, don't ever do that. Don't ever try to be. But by this time, God had worked on me, and I already had a healthier self-image. So I was more open. I was like, okay, you think this person will like me? Okay, let's meet the person. I wasn't desperate, but I was like, we'll see. In fact, somebody else introduced me to another person that time. But once I had a conversation with the other person, I knew that, nah, we don't share the same values. And I let it go. In the past, I would have been like, let's just be going like that. But I now had a sense of self. So I knew what could fit into my life and what could not. I had a picture of what my future would look like. I knew who could enter that future and who could not,
How did you know
So
your husband could enter
so
that
when
picture?
so because I had been spending a lot of time by myself,
Mm.
God had been speaking to me about the kind of life he was calling me to, the kind of assignments that I would carry and the kind of man that could support that kind of assignment. So from conversations I could already tell if this one could fit into the image I had seen or if he could not fit into it. So when they said come and meet this Yemi guy, I said okay, no problem. Give him my number. I still remember our first chat. He was trying to be funny. My husband can be a comedian. He was trying to crack. So I was like, okay, let's see. We agreed to meet. To meet physically. The first time we had a chat was in December. So we said, okay, let's meet up in January. And so I went, had that initial date with him and all that, and it was such a good one. We had very, very healthy conversations, very wholesome conversations. I realized that we did share similar values and all of that. I was from that first meet, of course I had prayed very well before going. I said, God, I beg.
I don't want story or problem again.
In this my life. So and I was open. I was like, I'm not going to be in a space where I will force myself into something I know is not good for me. If I sense that this thing is not good for me, I will let it go. So I wasn't desperate. So when I then had that initial meeting with him, and I was like, oh, this looks like something that I should pursue, or we should meet up again, and all of that. And with every date, with every conversation, it was effortless, it was smooth, it was true, it was pure, it was godly. We shared the same values, and all of that. And I just knew that this was the one. It was clear to me. I had a lot of peace about it, and it was just clear that this was the person I would do life
So did you
with.
share your past with him? All
I
of
did.
those things. You did?
I did. I had to, because I reckon that I could not build a purposeful, godly, healthy marriage that would stand the test of time on a foundation of lies.
So what did he say? What was his reaction?
I prayerfully did. I go and pray.
Prayerfully.
What will I do? I pray. But I think also because I had accepted myself and accepted my story, it was easy for me to believe that someone else would accept me.
Yes.
That's
just it.
Yeah. And if you don't accept,
Self-acceptance helps
yes,
other people to accept
exactly. So I wasn't sharing my story from a place of, Joe, accept me the way I am. Oh, sure, you will not leave me. I shared my story calmly, with conviction of the fact that who I was is no longer who I am. Yeah. The conviction that I'm a different person. I'm whole, I'm healed. I didn't share it out of pride that anything you want to do with it. No, definitely not that. But I came with a sense of confidence in who I am to say, hey, look, I feel like I should share, stuff that happened in my past with you, and all of that. And, I did share. And I think for me at that point, the heaviest thing was sharing that abortion. I feel like that's the thing that a lot of people
Men
are
would run away from.
exactly like, hey, do you still have womb? Do you get all those kind of things? Where did they do it? What do you get? Because people want to have kids and they don't want your wombs to be damaged. And that's understandable, to be honest.
Very much understandable.
Yeah. So I gave him the details of that experience and that procedure and all of that. And he said to me that, I remember him saying that we're all in need of grace. We're all in need of grace. All of us are in need of grace. There's not one person on the surface of this earth that is not in need of grace. And it's the same measure of grace that he needs that I also need. It's not like Jesus died he did not die in batches, and in bits, in phases. Yes. He did not say, okay, this one I will faint for this thing, then I will now die for this thing.
For people like those,
I have to die. Then for people like somebody else, it's just faint they need. Do you get? It's the same death he died for everybody.
Yes.
It's the same amount of blood that was shed. Not shed 1 pint for me and then 10 pints for somebody. It's the same amount of. It's the same death. It's the same sacrifice, once for all time, for every sin, for everything. And my husband understood that spiritual reality. And that was very helpful. So he was like, it's the same grace that we all need.
So I'm going to ask you one last question, because this is very, because I've posted video in the past like that. They will say, you didn't finish, you did not ask what happened, like, so that's why I want to ask this. At what point did you start doing this soul prosperity coach? And then at what point did you tell your husband
That I was going to be sharing
you
myself.
going to be sharing this?
I love
we are
it.
Africans.
We
Yeah,
are Africans.
we
are,
that means we are very conservative.
We're very conservative.
We
Yeah.
like to shoot our matter in secrecy.
Exactly.
Don't wash our dirty linen.
We don't. So at what point? First of all, I started blogging. But when I was blogging, I wasn't sharing the fullness of my story. I wasn't sharing a lot. And my husband was and my husband was supporting my blogging.
Yes.
It was very supportive.
Were you married then?
We're married.
Okay.
So I started blogging just shortly after we got married. I was blogging, helping single ladies with some of my own experiences. Nothing deep, but very helpful and deeply impactful as well, And then one day, something happened to me. I don't know what happened to me. My hands were on the keyboard. I was going to type something entirely different, a different blog post. I just found myself writing the story of my life. I just found myself writing about weed, writing about abortion. I said, what happened to me? I had finished before I came back to myself. Like, what just happened? No, I hadn't sent, but I had finished typing. When I was like, what did I just do? I don't know how long it took me to send the post. I can't remember, but I know I sent it. And I don't even think I told him that I sent it. Also, I didn't have like a lot of views as I did. I didn't have a large audience.
So you wouldn't even think a lot of people would know about
Exactly. Exactly. I wouldn't think a lot of people would see it. Whoever is seeing this must be somebody that really follows me and really follows all my blog posts. The average person will not open, the blog post and all that. So I didn't feel too whatever about it, and all of that. When it became clear to me that my message was going to reach more people was when God asked me to write my book Unchained, where I chronicled my entire life story. That one I had to have a conversation with my husband. I prayed about it. I, told my husband that this is what I'm sensing, and all of that. And he gave me his blessing. He did not for one day say, are you sure? He just said, if this is what you're sensing that God wants you to do, you have my support. Write your story, share your story, impact lives, change people's, lives. Go do what God has asked you to do. And then I wrote Unchained, and I'm so thankful for his support, because if I didn't have it, there's no way. How do I want to do it? Every other person's opinion, I can still be like, okay, I'll still do what I want to. But if I didn't have my husband's support, it would have been incredibly hard to do this. But he really just supported my writing of the book. And then when I was then going to share my story on air, share publicly, I also had that conversation with him, to say, hey, look, I'm going on this show. In fact, before the interview dropped, I still had a conversation with him that this interview is going to air on so day. Are you still okay with it? Because I think that I shared a lot, and I think he jokingly said, what did you go and say there? Maybe like, did you call my name? I did not do anything to you. I said, no, and all that. And then he was like, of course you have my blessing, you have my support. It's okay, it's okay, it's fine. So I've always had his support, thankfully. And this is why I know that I am sent here.
Yes.
This is why I know
this is why your parents could not, relate or agree with other people.
Exactly.
Because they are people of the spirit.
Exactly.
No, but like, that scripture in the Bible that says we know in part and we prophesy in part. We don't know the future. You just have that knowing that no, this is not it. No, I'm sure they didn't know that you will be sharing your story someday, that your husband, nobody knew. They just feel
nobody
as Christians,
knew. Exactly. You won't see the big picture, but
you will just know in your heart.
Yeah.
And this is so. It's so deep, and I've heard your story, but I've never heard it this way. You get what I mean? And I'm so grateful for good husbands like yours.
Yes.
Because in like we have said, in Africa, hey, it's such a big deal. I remember my own experience. A guy broke up with me because of that. Like,
wow.
You go and sharing that what? How many abortion? How many? And be going like, because they think about themselves. And I tell single women or women who have kids, single moms, or people who have stories or a very, funny, colorful past, don't get mad with people because they cannot accept it. Does not mean they are bad people.
Yeah.
Everybody has what they want in their lives.
Exactly.
Everybody know what they can handle. Everybody know what they can cope with. So if somebody says, I cannot cope with this, don't change your own life for that
Yes.
person. And don't vilify the person. Because what if he doesn't have
Yes.
capacity
Yes.
for that?
Yes.
And then he ruins your life, ruins the children's life, or any other thing that could have damaged your whole life. And of course, like we all say, a broken engagement is always better than a broken marriage. And look at what you are doing today.
Yeah.
You have Soul Prosperity. Is this Soul Prosperity boot camp or Liberation boot camp?
Yeah.
I know that you help a lot of young people. Why did you choose the soul?
Why did I choose what?
Soul. Yes.
Soul.
Because I knew when I heard that name, it was like Soul Prosperity. Okay, so because I'm a therapist, I understand all of this. Yes, but why was that very important to you?
I think the scripture that came alive for me in a season of my life is the one that says that I wish above all things that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. So I'm like, there's such a thing as the prosperity of the soul. And I started to see how, how scripture says, guard your heart with all diligence, because out of it flows the issues of, like, everything about your life, your being, your flourishing, your becoming, your marriage, your career, your business, your parenting, everything flows from the state of your soul, of your heart, the health of your soul, even your spirituality.
Absolutely.
There is a way that your relationship with God will be broken if you're deeply wounded and hurt because of past experiences. So I started to see how central the wholeness of the soul is to the functioning of any individual. And I was like, yeah, that's what it is. It is really prosperity of soul, flourishing in your soul, flourishing, in your heart. So yeah, that's the name I use for my work.
That's good. That's very, very good. I am, as I'm going to say it again, grateful that you found your calling and you said yes to it. Because somebody will watch this today and you are all they need to hear. They can relate to you. Nobody else could get to them. No spiritual person could get to them because once people feel, oh, I'm a sinner, and then you're coming to preach to me, what have you done in your life? What do you even know? Don't worry, the blood cannot even reach me. But when they see people like you who have done a lot of things and yet is still basking in God's love and grace, that would save a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you too.
Thank you for doing what you do. So finally, before I let you go,
Okay,
because I'm feeling all serious and emotional, so I'm just going to do a little bit of this and that with you.
Okay.
We get to that segment where we do some games. So we're going to make it fast as
finish
possible.
Our time.
Yes. So prayer or affirmations? Those is number one. No, number one. You are like this.
Okay, it's between prayer and affirmation.
And then you say both. Now this is where you are like
both, please. both.
You're supposed to laugh at this one too. Purpose or passion?
Purpose. Can choose that one.
Bible app or hard copy Bible?
Bible app.
Okay. Hardcover books or audiobooks?
Hardcover, please.
Okay. Journaling or relying on memory?
Journaling.
Good. Coaching one-on-one or group sessions?
One-on-one.
Healing retreat or empowerment conference?
It depends. It depends. Healing retreat or empowerment conference. If it's for myself, empowerment conference. If I'm hosting, healing
for
retreat.
People, healing. Oh, I like that differentiation. Proverbs or Psalms?
Psalms.
Going out or staying in?
Staying in.
Of course, we all know. Duh. Online meeting or on-site?
On-site.
Oh, good. Cash or transfer?
Transfer, please.
Phone call or text?
Text me, please.
Solo trip or group trip?
Solo trip. Group.
Group trip. Okay. Fast food or homemade?
Homemade.
Beach or movie night?
Movie night.
Oh. Then another last one. Who is known as father of modern psychology? Can you imagine? It's not me, oh, ladies and gentlemen, it's my producer. You just want to make a males
And
of
I know it
Tosin.
too.
You do.
And I know it
It's
too.
Sigmund Freud.
Okay.
Yes, you do. What's the largest organ in the human body?
The skin.
Of course. Which fruit is known to keep doctors away if eaten once a day?
Apple.
Who wrote the book, The Power of Positive Thinking? As if everybody's supposed to know this.
I don't know.
That's why you're not eyeing our camera. Norman Vincent Peale. What? Don't mind them. Just people, just forgive my producer. What's the name of the body's stress hormone?
The body's stress hormone, cortisol.
Yes. Which practice is often used to release negative energy?
Meditation.
Yes, or deep breathing. What's one powerful tool for emotional healing?
Journaling.
Just getting everything. How many continents are there?
7.
She's smart, so you people should know. Who was the first president of Nigeria?
The first president.
Yes.
Is it democratic?
Yes.
It's Obasanjo now.
It's not Obasanjo.
You said that's why I say is it the democracy?
Okay, so
President,
like we were in a republic.
okay.
Yes, Nnamdi Azikiwe.
Okay.
What part of the brain is primarily responsible for emotions?
What part of the
Remind them.
brain?
Is the amygdala. Don't worry.
Okay.
Don't stress yourself.
I could have possibly done.
Yes, you could have, because this is what
Amygdala,
we do
we learn
in
it
the-
now.
we learn it.
Prefrontal cortex.
Yes, now.
Limbic system.
Don't worry, you don't have to
Amygdala.
prove it to us that you
I know it. So
But this has been fun, Tosin. I
yeah,
hope
you push it out
enjoyed
that
this.
Obasanjo part. Please don't embarrass me. This
We are going to air it so that they will know. You understand? Don't, especially your
Oh,
clients and your
God,
church
that's-
people. They will know that she doesn't. No. It's just that you don't know politics.
I don't
It's
know
okay.
politics, please.
It's okay. It's okay. Self-acceptance. Just accept yourself.
Yes.
So thank you so much for doing this. Thank you so much for coming to share your story and helping other people heal. God bless you. God bless your work. You know that I always love having you. All my programs, I'm always thinking, how can I put Tosin? How can I put Tosin? Because you're such a resourceful person. And I feel like what you're doing is so needed in this generation. God bless you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
So, guys, you have listened to Tosin's story. Look at what she went through, but look at how she came out of it. I just need to always tell you that it is possible to be happier again. It is possible. I always say it's never too late to start over. I don't say it just for saying sake. Look at her. Look at how pretty she looks. Look at how beautiful she looks. Look at how enriching she is. Look at how happy. Look at how free. It is a whole lot of things to be free inside. A lot of people don't know this. Freedom, healing, peace. You need it more than anything. So please, if you need any help, send a DM, just go to the link in bio, book a session. We'll put Tosin's handle also. You can also reach her, buy her books, and how to connect with her, because I believe she can help you go far a lot in this life. Till I come your way again next week. Subscribe to this channel so that God can bless you and share this information with as many people that are needed. Some people cannot go to therapy, some people cannot go and share their situation, but when they watch something like this, it will go a long way to help them. I always say before I leave that it is never too late to start over. See you again next week. Bye for now.